Welcome back. In this video, we're going to have a go at sketching a more difficult function. So we're going to discuss and sketch the graph of f of x equals negative 2 to the power of negative x plus 3. So the first thing we can see about this graph is that if we compare it to, say, our base graph of, let's put it in, y equals 2 to the x. If we graphed y equals 2 to the x, we'd get a graph that looks something reminiscent of this guy. Y equals 2 to the x. So comparing these two graphs, what we're going to see is, firstly, because there's the negative here, what we're going to see is a reflection about the y-axis. So we can say that y equals 2 to the negative x is a reflection of y equals 2 to the x in the y-axis. So if I was going to do this one, let's say not in purple, if I did it in red, what we find is we get the opposite. So let's go a bit finer. So if I can draw this, not quite. Alright, so drawing that was a little bit harder than what I was anticipating. But what you can see is this red graph here, which is y equals 2 to the negative x, is the mirror image of y equals 2 to the x, but it's mirrored about the y-axis. Now, if we wanted to go one better, or one closer to the function that we're trying to do, we're going to go y equals negative 2 negative x, and we're going to say it is a reflection of y equals 2 to the negative x, but it's a reflection about the x-axis now. So we'll do this one in purple because it's a little bit easier. And what we're going to find is that, in fact, no, we'll go green. That's a nice easy color to see. So what we're going to see is this red function is going to be reflected about the x-axis. So it's going to look, it's growing here, something like that. Now, the final transformation to deal with here is we've got this vertical translation factor. So what we're going to find is that y equals negative 2 to the negative x plus 3 is a translation y equals negative 2 to the negative x by, let's say, by upwards 3 units, because it's a positive 3 there. So this is going to push this green graph up by 3. So what we can do is, let's take the easy route and we'll grab this green graph and we're going to grab it and we're simply going to move it 1, 2, 3. Easy does it. And then let's get an orange pen and we'll draw in the asymptote like so. So the asymptote at y equals 3. And this would be an example of how we could graph, or the process of how we could graph this function here. Now, the question's not over yet because it's asking us to state the domain. The domain for this particular function is the values of x. So what you'll find is the domain, so d is equal to x, or values of x, where x is simply all real numbers. So x is a value of all real numbers. And if we want to go one better, and I know the question's not asking for it, but if we wanted to state the range, because why not, we could say the range, so the values of y are going to be where y is less than 3 and y can be said to be a member of all real numbers. So this is an example of how we discuss and we sketch the graph f of x equals -2 to the power of -x plus 3.